Which popcorn is worthy to be served at our screening of Troll 2? Yeah, doubtful. Dear Tim and Moby, what exactly is a statistic? From Bruce. A statistic is a number, fraction, or percentage that describes a piece of information. This is a statistic. It describes the percentage of kernels that will pop in each bag of crazy corn popcorn. Sometimes you'll see stats in graph form, like here. This bar chart describes how much bigger an average piece of Puffy Pop popcorn is than its competitors. And sometimes you'll see stats represented with quantity words like less, more, and average. No, they're not just on popcorn boxes. Stats are used to sell tons of different products. But advertising is just one place you'll see statistics. They're also used in opinion polls, weather forecasts, professional sports, economics, and scientific and medical studies, just to name a few areas. Actually, they just make the numbers up. The end. Kidding. Statistics are generated through a process of gathering information, analyzing it, and interpreting it through numbers. This whole process has its own field of math called, statistics. Yeah, it's not as easy as pulling a lever. The first step is identifying the population you want to analyze. A population can really be anything. For a medical researcher, a population might consist of all Americans with high blood pressure. For an astronomer, it could be all visible galaxies. For a popcorn marketer, it could be the different brands of microwave popcorn. Of course, you can't test every single person with high blood pressure or look at every galaxy in existence. So usually, you have to choose a sample, a randomly selected group within the population. Once that's done, you gather data from the sample. The larger the sample, the better your data will represent the population. Well, it depends on what you're trying to find out. Statistical research often just involves observation. An astronomer might compare the traits of different galaxies, and a popcorn marketer might compare the sizes of different types of popcorn. In these kinds of studies, you simply observe the sample and record the data. Other statistical studies try to establish causality, or cause and effect. Like, a medical researcher might want to know if a certain drug lowers blood pressure. So he'll perform a scientific experiment comparing how different groups react to different amounts of the drug. Well, the next step is analyzing the data and turning it into statistics. Sometimes the analysis is descriptive. It just uses numbers to interpret what the data mean. Some basic descriptive statistics include mean or average, median or midpoint, and mode, or most common result. But in many cases, statistical analysis looks for patterns in the data in order to make predictions. For example, if a blood pressure drug makes 1 out of 4 people dizzy, that stat could be used to predict its effect on future patients. Yeah, unfortunately, you can't always trust the stats you see on products, or even in the news. For one thing, 2 analyses of the same data could potentially come up with 2 totally different conclusions. And in some cases, misleading statistics are even used purposely to support a certain point of view. Oh, there are lots of different ways to make the stats say whatever you want. Manipulating or messing with the sample is one common method. Take this graph. It compares Puffy Pop against 2 other brands of popcorn. That's way too small a sample to be meaningful. There are dozens of brands of popcorn. On top of that, Puffy Pop may have chosen these 2 brands because they knew their popcorn was made up of smaller pieces. That's called a sampling bias, when you select a non-random sample of the population. No, I'm not calling Puffy Pop a liar. Even if there is a sampling bias here, it could have been unintentional. But the point is, until you know where a stat comes from and how it was derived, you can't be 100% sure it's trustworthy. Alright, so that leaves us back where we started. How are we going to know which of these brands is the best?